It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
Welcome back to Inside the Patch. We are ESPN Fresno. And of course, like always, we got Mitch Adams, the professor of the perfect rotation basketball training device. He invented that thing, and he's encouraging you to get it to your kids. If you're a high school coach, junior high coach, and it really, with that perfect rotation, doesn't it make the ball go in a lot more? Because it's got that rotation.
Absolutely.
That's
what
really what it is.
It's weighted, and it forces your elbow into the side, so you have to come straight up under the ball with the elbow.
Nice.
And then the patented channels get your fingertips involved in the release process. Not just your hand, but the fingertips. And when you let it go, through the course of training with it, the muscle memory will set in, and all of a sudden, not just with this ball, but with the regular basketball, you get a perfect rotation on your shot, that backspin, and a beautiful jump shot.
And all those shots that maybe bounced out have a better chance of staying in. Keeping it in. Well, today on the Raiders show, the season for the Raiders is over, but it seems like there's more Raider news than ever right now.
Oh, yeah.
The coach, the question is, are we going to get Antonio Pierce to be our coach? I would say, well, it depends on the day, man. On Tuesday is a 100% chance. And then Wednesday changed, and now towards the end of the week, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know,
Well, they better know very soon, because some of the comments I've read online, and one in particular, guy said, I've been a Raider fan since 1966. And if they don't hire Pierce, I'm looking for a new team, because it's the obvious choice.
Right.
If you go away from this choice, what are you telling the players that have clamored for him? They're all saying, this is my coach.
Right.
And again, I know when an interim coach comes in, you get the team behind you, but it always doesn't work out.
Right.
This is different. This guy was born a Raider.
Right.
This guy has proven that he is a Raider.
Yeah.
And I think it would really bring back the spirit of the Raiders that has been lost, it seems like, for a number of years. Gruden had some magic. And if you brought him back, that would be a horrible decision as well. Jack Del Rio had some magic. Hugh Jackson had some magic. But there's something about Antonio Pierce that it just seems like these guys would run through a wall for him. And it's almost like the Dan Campbell as I mentioned last week, in Detroit.
He's Dan Campbell-esque. Yes.
He's a player's coach. That's what he is. He's done it at a high level. He's won it. And who better to learn from than somebody that's been in the trenches, and he knows what they're going through. And we talked about it when he was brought in as the interim head coach, that we could sense from the television that there was a change in the team's spirit.
Yeah.
A more positive change. And I tell you, if you go and hire someone else, the only coach out there that might be able to is Harbaugh and maybe a Belichick. And I'm hearing that Tom Brady wants Belichick, but if the rest of the organization doesn't, then I think you have to go with what the consensus one. And
Belichick and Harbaugh, they're all good, but if you, I don't know, does that fix the Raiders or does that divide the Raiders? And that's kind of
I think it would divide the Raiders from management.
Yeah,
I think the players and management would have the camaraderie or the symbiotic, however you want to say it, but the relationship between players and management would be strained, to say the least, because they want what they want.
Right. Well, and the fans too. If you bring in a Harbaugh or a Belichick, well, now you're just saying, hey, that spirit and everything we had, and now that we're going to start over. We're going to do it again. We're going to get new players. They're all going to bring players in, coaches. It's going to change. changes the everything, you know?
It would change. It would change big time. And, Harbaugh, I think, would do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I also think Belichick would do a fantastic job. But Antonio Pierce already has proven that he can do a good job. And as he matures, he'll get to doing a fantastic job. And we talked about it before. Him bringing in Marvin Lewis, Coughlin, and I think Herman Edwards has even paid a visit to help him get to where he needs to be as a head coach. And I believe Marvin Lewis is on staff as a consultant right now.
See?
So
yeah,
they're looking to give this guy the knowledge to be a head coach.
See, and I think, those are all good scenarios or whatever, but you and I, our heart of hearts and our feelings, if AP is our guy, well, then that solidifies the locker room with the that's because you're hearing Crosby will ask for a trade, Antonio might ask, Devontae might ask for a trade. All these things might happen, and then now we're kind of starting over again.
And we don't need that. We don't need to start over again.
No.
And what did he do? What did Antonio Pierce's defense? Well, we have to give some of that to the defensive coordinator.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
What did that defense do?
Yeah.
They were ranked in the top 10 after he took over.
Yeah. Right.
And if you have a top 10 defense, that puts you in the upper echelon of teams in the league. And we just got a bad start.
We beat the Chiefs, and our quarterback didn't complete a pass, I don't think, in the fourth or the third quarter.
After the first quarter, 0 passes completed.
Yeah, and we won. We won the game.
And we won. Yeah.
So okay, let's just say we don't know yet. We think, I think you and I both, if we get a vote, we're AP in it, right?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. No doubt.
And then I heard that they were going after Cliff Kingsbury. Okay, they're talking to him to be our offensive coordinator, and they blocked Graham from going for a defensive coordinator job,
which bodes well for Pierce. But go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Well, it kind of sets the tone for what I think they want to do, and then okay, if Kingsbury's what's his qualification? I don't know. He coached in college, Patrick Mahomes. He's not too bad, and then he was in Arizona for a while. Last year, he was at USC, where Caleb Williams is, Caleb Williams was in the locker room with the Raiders when we played the Broncos last time. I don't know if you know that. But also, so was Jaden Daniels. So that's the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with either one of those.
Oh,
okay? Yeah. But in order for us to get those, we're going to have to give up probably some first-round draft choices, but we're not very good at that anyway. So what? I'd rather do that than draft what we get drafted.
Oh, goodness. You're right. Our past 10 years has not been fruitful.
Not good.
Maybe longer than that. There is this guy named Justin Fields running around in Chicago, and Chicago is the first pick in the draft. Do they take a quarterback and then put Justin on the market, who would probably not be as expensive as trading for one of those guys?
Even Chicago, I'm still mad about Cleo Mack. I'm not over that yet. I'm like, don't ship him. I don't want to ship nothing. I don't want Crosby going to Chicago. I don't want Devontae going to Chicago.
I think Crosby's untouchable, man. But that's the spirit of the team right there.
Yeah. Our fourth round Max Crosby, he's not going anywhere. He is. He's the heart of the team,
Oh, yeah.
The relentless heartbeat. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. But the Raiders have never, we tried with DeMarcus Russell. That's the first time we got a big quarterback draft choice, and that worked out well for us.
Well, the problem with DeMarcus is that he showed out at his pro day.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever had the number one pick that year, that's who they were going to take. And unfortunately, that was us.
Right.
And you see what has happened since then. quarterbacks are first round picks, number 1 overall. They're not getting that lottery ticket anymore.
No,
you're subject to a rookie contract with a nice bonus, but not $30 to $40 million anymore.
Right.
And so he put an end to that based on his behavior in his first couple of years in the league.
That's that's our contribution to the NFL league. You're welcome. We did that for you guys, for your other teams. So you have to be like us. Okay, so I was talking to some kids, and I say kids, to them, old school's Rich Gannon. I mean, that's they didn't know the Raiders of the 70s, early 80s. They didn't know that,
No.
And since they've been alive, they've never really seen a dominating Raider team,
No.
It would be nice. It'd be nice.
Yeah, that 50-point game we had, 63.
63 on Miami. No, not on Miami. On who did we do that to?
The Chargers.
That's right. Our division.
My son kept saying, because I was like, oh my God. I said, I haven't seen anything we've never seen anything like that. But just the dominance early on.
Yeah.
He says, is this what it was like when you were coming up? I said, absolutely. I said, they feared no one. You knew they were going to win.
Right.
And we got a glimpse of that back in the early 2000s for 2 or 3 years there.
Yeah, and it was like, and it seemed like in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, where you got your Bill Romanowskis, you got your Lyle Zados. Those are guys that were known for other teams and had somewhat bad reputations,
Oh, man.
But yet they had some in the tank. And that's where I was really good about going. They got a couple years.
He really was then. I think when, close to the end for him, bringing in the Richard Seymours and players like that, the Warren Sapp, these guys had a little bit of tread on them, but the magic just wasn't there.
Right.
But back in the 70s and 80s, there was plenty of magic for bringing in players from other teams and them really contributing to the success of the Raiders.
Right. Well, so let's go back to Mitch Adams as a 9-year-old or 8-year-old. I mean, when did you really consider yourself a Raider fan?
Man, I think I was younger than 5 when I got my Raider uniform. Marv Hubbard, number 44.
With the helmet? With the little plastic helmet?
With little plastic helmet. And,
that could not protect you at all. It was the most unsafe helmet.
I ran into walls and what have you. That's probably what my problem is today. But as I've said before, I'd hear my dad on Sundays yelling and cursing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, he would be happy. I'm like, man, what is going on in there?
What is
and
happening?
He would always turn the TV down and turn Bill King up.
Oh,
so we'd listen to Bill King, and Bill King described the game with so much detail that I became a fan at a very young age, and I could understand the game because Bill, it's like reading a book. He's telling you what's happening as it's happening.
And what a talent to sit there and paint that picture, basically, is what he would do.
And Greg Papa was very close to Bill. I mean, as far as being able to call it the same way. And for years, until Bill, I guess it was down in L.A. when they were there. So somewhere in the mid-'80s, late 80s, Bill stopped calling the games. But he was my staple. Bill King's calls on the radio, watching the TV.
Yeah, and when you see a lot of the highlight reels, it's usually Bill King's call. They play with Willie Brown.
Yeah. I can still remember where I was, exactly where I was during the Holy Roller, 1978 in September. I know exactly. It was the day before school started. It was like it was yesterday.
I remember I got so excited. I hit my knee on the brick fireplace at the house. And they didn't have, there was no YouTube to go see it again. You either caught it then or you got maybe Howard Cosell would do it at Monday Night Football halftime highlights. Yeah. That was it. There was no easy way to get those highlights.
There wasn't. There wasn't. If you missed it, I mean, you might catch it on the news and hope to see it again especially if it was a team they were in the division and they played again, you might see that highlight again. But right. Once the highlights were done that weekend,
Yeah.
you didn't see much of them.
I remember, I think it was probably 1984, 83. There was, next to our church, there was like a miniature golf place. And I knew I had my license, so it had to be like 83, 84. And me and my brother would drive over to that miniature golf place during Sunday school. And they had this Raider Charger game. And I haven't seen anything like it. And it was like videos. So I put a play in, he put a play in, and it would cut to a video from a Raider Charger game. And it was probably just too expensive but that technology at that time was crazy. But man, I would know the play sometimes. I go, oh wait, this is going to be Branch catching a bomb right now. Yeah. But it would show the actual play. And I loved it. It was just like, it was expensive. It was like $2 for like 4 minutes. It was a lot of money, but I just remember.
That's a lot back then.
Yeah, but I remember that was like the coolest. And it must have just been an experimental one because I've never seen it since, and they just don't do that,
Well, we my dad got season tickets around 1970. I think right after the Super Bowl victory.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was around 77. And so for a few years, he would take one of the kids. I forget how many seats we had. But I remember leaving church. Speaking of church, I remember leaving and my parents dropping my brother and me off at the Coliseum.
Nice.
And then we would catch Bart home, and then someone would pick us up. And back then, here's a dime.
Yeah, make sure you call.
Call when you get there. And then when I got in high school, I became a vendor in the stands. And so
no way. You were up in,
man. Hey, ice cream here. Get your ice cream. Chocolate molds, hot dogs. Hey, peanuts.
I think I bought some. You said perfect rotation basketball training device. You were yelling it.
Yeah. I had these in my thing. But man, by my teenage years, I was at every game.
Wow.
And it was just awesome. And if you got peanuts, you were out there. You didn't go back in too often. You might go back in once and refill. And the rest of the time you were in the stands.
So you're watching the game too.
Man. I remember when Art Steele broke Pastorini's leg and then Plunkett comes in. Oh yeah, man. And when, my high school days were incredible because I went to every Raider game.
Wow.
With all my buddies from school, we'd go down and we'd stand in line, and the guy, Mark Riley was his name. And if he knew you, he'd say, hey, handsome, come here. Giving you hot dogs today. One of the expensive items so you can make some, because if you got sodas, oh my God, you hustled and you didn't make that much.
And you're carrying them, it's pain. You don't want to
and
fall down with sodas, yeah.
He'd always say, hey, babe, he'd give you little tags that give you peanuts again, like, thank you. And you get to watch the whole game. It was incredible, man.
So when did you move? You went to, I know you went to Al Davis for a job. How'd that happen? How did you go from that to that?
I called Al Davis.
No, you didn't call that. You just called the Raiders and say, hey, is Al there?
Hey, essentially, I went on this letter writing campaign, and it was okay. I went on this letter. I would write letters to the team when they came back to Oakland.
Okay.
And I would write like once a month, and I had it was probably the same letter, and it may have been handwritten.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been. I don't think I had a computer.
To individual players, though, right? Or to anybody?
No, the office.
Nice.
Al Davis, Al Lucasal, Amy Trask. And I remember one of my older brother's friends says, I would tell her, I said, man, I would really want to work for the Raiders. And she says, what are you doing about it? I said, I write letters once a month. She says, why don't you call? She said, what if you have to lose? She said, you'll be in the same position you're in today if you don't call. And if you do call and they say no big deal. So I called the number, 865-4000-5, whatever the number was. And reception answered. I said, may I speak to Al Davis? And they said, hold on, please. I'm like,
whoa,
what?
whoa. Wow.
So I get Al's
personal secretary.
I think it was Cheryl Nichols.
Okay.
And I know that was, she managed Al's, like, probably his life. Cheryl's a very, very nice lady and had been with the team. Might still be with the team or affiliated in some way, shape, or form. But she said, hold on. And I got Cheryl, and she says, well, let me give you Morris Bradshaw. That's probably better suited for him. Okay. And I'd written Morris in the past, and so.
And he was a receiver from the 70s, I believe,
from
right?
the 70s, out of Ohio State, where he played running back there.
And you've had him on the show a couple times.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so I called Mo, or they transferred me to Morris, and he says, I told him, I said, listen, I'm starting a graduate program at the University of San Francisco in January, and this was September of 99.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, so why are you calling now? I said, well, I want to get a head start on any competition I might have with, people in my cohort wanting jobs here. So I figured everybody wanted to work for the Raiders.
Right.
And he said, oh, okay. And he said, well, come see me next week. So I leave work and I go to 1220 Harbor Bay Parkway in Alameda. And
well, no, wait. I know that place. So I've been there before. That used to be their training facility also, but they had this giant rock in front, and it was the shield and everything made out of rocks. It was the coolest thing ever.
That was in the back.
Yeah, in the back. But you go to the front door, there's a big fountain out front, right? The Raider flag hanging.
Yeah, man. I walk in and I'm sitting in the lobby, and I hear, see, all this is coming back.
Yeah.
I hear the reception answer, and I think it was Monica Sweetwine that was the reception then. She says, call, I'm transferring a call, and Al, I guess it was Cheryl, answered and says, I said, got Bill Parcells on the line for Al Davis. And I'm sitting in the lobby like, wow. I'm here. Wow. And these are people that I see on TV, and I'm hearing their names.
And Parcells at that time was the Belichick probably of the NFL.
Yep.
Huge name.
Yep. And
you're just like, you got to be scared, man. You got to be like, okay.
Dude, heart was beating, and then Morris peeked his head out and said, come on. And
what did you have in your hand? Did you have like a resume?
I don't know. He took me to an office, and we sat and talked. And
but when you're walking down the hall, you're walking down the hall, those, and you're seeing all those. It's there's posters, there's pictures, there's trophies. I mean, you got to be freaking out.
Yeah, that was a magical place. And then, so Mo said, again, why do you think you could work here? And I said, and this isn't disparaging, Morris. I said, but I have two friends that work in the NFL, and if they can do it, why can't I do it? And he said, okay. He says, well, I have nothing for you now. Get in touch with me right after the draft and call me once a month just to say hello. And I did. And I saw him at a game one day, and I probably had a couple beers. And Morris, he's like, whoa, who are you? Because
Mitch.
I didn't have the shirt and tie on. And
right.
I was probably dressed more like this. And anyway, and I said, Mitch Adams. He said, oh, yeah. I said, I'm going to call you around the draft. He said, okay. And I called him. He says, can you come in Tuesday? Yep. And then he gave me an office. There was an empty office across the hall from him. He said, this is where you'll work out of. And so I've got a.
Now, are you an intern, or are you paid, or how's that?
I'm an intern.
But you got an office with a phone?
I got
a phone in there?
Everything.
Oh!
I'm making calls on his behalf. Hey, this is Mitch Adams with the Raiders calling for Morris Bradshaw, blah, blah, blah. Trying to set up sponsor deals.
Okay, so the minute you got to say, I'm Mitch Adams with the Raiders, how did that feel? I mean, there's something about that, man.
It's look at me. I can't even talk. It was all crazy.
Right.
And then he's come ride with me. We're going to go see a customer. And I'm out and about with them. There's an event downtown. So it's Moore's, Tyrone Wheatley and me riding to this event. And I'm like, holy crap, that's Tyrone Wheatley. And then as the event's getting ready, he's just standing back with me, chit-chatting. And I run into him one day. I said, "Do you remember me?" He said, "Yeah, we did the thing downtown." And because, sometimes you think these guys aren't human and that they're just football players, but they're people. And then, years later, he's working for, I forget what team he was working for, and he sees me on the sideline, and Tyrone came over and gave me a hug. "What's up, Mitch?" And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But it was that whole experience that first year was surreal. Now Morris gives me a printout with all the former players' names and addresses and email addresses, and so he says, copy that and make one for yourself so that we can reach out to these guys, because
we need to for show, whatever. Yeah,
there's a show that they call us that the Raider, the people that handled it, OFMA, Oakland Football Marketing Association.
Okay,
they were the people that sold the tickets. The Raiders had no control over the tickets when they first came back.
Okay, so they did.
And so OFMA they did the show with Vernon Glenn. He was with Channel 4 at the time, KRON. And they gave it up. When the Raiders got the rights to sell the tickets, there was a show, and they said, "Hey, we don't have anybody to run it." And Mo looked at me and says, "Hey, we got this show that do you want to book it and run it and produce it?" Yeah, I'll do that. He said, "Well, start calling the guys and see if we can book these first 3 weeks."
And is it the halftime show that I met you at?
Pre-game and halftime.
Okay, that's right.
And so I'm calling these guys that I've watched on TV all my life.
Right.
Here's their phone numbers. I'm like, "Hey, it's Mitch Adams, work with Morris, blah, blah, blah." And they, "Oh, yeah, I can do it." So we got local talent first.
Right.
The Raymond Chesters of the world, Marv Hubbard, Junkyard Dog. I can't even think of his name.
But all those guys that live locally still and
known
Raiders. Yeah.
And do this a few times, and all of a sudden they're telling guys, "Hey, call Mitch.
Get on this.
He can get you paid," and you go back and you do some suite. You visit. He'll put you in a suite, and all of a sudden now these guys are calling me. "Hey, Mitch, this is whomever want to do the show," and George Atkinson is my host.
Right.
And
that's right.
It was crazy. So in that first year, I go to play golf, and I have a twin brother, and he's up at the golf course, and Jack Tatum is there, and he says, "Hey, Jack, my brother is on the way. He's interning for Morris Bradshaw." And Jack's like, "That's great." And he said, "His kids," he says, my brother says, "I was always George Atkinson, and my brother, me, was always you." And so I get up there, and Richard said, there's Jack over there. So I go introduce myself. "Hey, yeah, I'm working with Morris, blah, blah, blah. Good to meet you. And hopefully you can come and do the show." He said, "Okay." Now, Jack is an intimidating person.
Yes, he's an assassin. Come on.
Well, Jack shanks it, slicing it over the fence on the tee box. And my brother yells out, "Now you see why I always wanted to be George." Jack turned around. If looks could kill, I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
And I'm looking at my brother like, "What are you doing?"
And you look just like him, so he might get confused and punch you too.
So we're up at now I've got to go to training camp frequently during the week. So I'm up at training camp.
Now that's Santa Rosa, right? Where they used to have training camp.
That was up in Santa Rosa. And I said, Morris, guess what happened yesterday? He's like, what? I said, my brother Richard upset Jack. And I told him what happened. Then he said, George, get over here.
Oh, tell George the story?
He said, now tell George. I said, I don't want to.
I don't want to tell him.
I don't want to tell him. Because I figured Jack was going to rip my head off the next time he saw me.
Right.
And I tell George, and he laughs. Oh, my God. He said, wait till I call Jack. I said, please don't. But all of this cemented my friendship with all those guys. Jack and I became very close.
Right.
George and I became close. I mean, Morris and I are close. I mean, he's like a big brother or an uncle or something. I mean, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of them. I mentioned this barbecue that I threw once, my brother and I threw, and I think I got a little bit in there last week. Jeff had come to that. Yeah. And Jeff was there. Rod Martin was there. Morris was there. Raymond Chester was there. Greg Townsend was there. And there were a few others. And everybody was walking.
Those guys are giant. How much barbecue did you have to make?
They had a ball. Oh, my God. Because my brother and I get about 200 people for our birthday party in summertime barbecue. And they've got the rings on, and everybody's walking in like, oh, my God.
Oh, that's great.
Is that so-and-so?
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, Jeff has been to the house. Morris has been to the house.
Yeah.
Rod has been to the house on a number of occasions. And when these guys would come to town, they'd be like, hey, Mitch, come hang out. And then Charlie Smith would always call him and Carlton Oates. Mitch, you're playing golf. Are you free? Yeah. And I'm playing golf with all these legends. Or Mike Dotterer called me and said, hey, Mitch, the Raiders need one person to play in this NFL tournament at the Olympic Club. Can you fill in?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Yes.
Calendar's
and I go
clear.
over there, and all the guys, they know me.
Right.
Even the ones that didn't play for the Raiders, because they're all friends and they hang out together.
Right.
And I walk in and everybody's, Mitch, you grabbing my shoulders. And it's the best feeling in the world, man, because everyone's looking like, who's this guy? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Wow.
But it's been magical.
I'm telling you right now, you got enough look up. You got a little Antonio Pierce in you too. You could say you're his brother if you want.
I got to put my earring. I haven't worn earrings in years. I'll have to put some studs in.
I'm telling you, there's enough there where you can pull it off. Oh yeah, it's my uncle, cousin.
Raiders.
You got that. You got that part.
Oh man, you got me fired up here, Gnarly.
I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
Well, Mitch, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, that's the stuff that sears into your heart, and that your fandom comes from all of that.
Oh.
You sold peanuts. You sold peanuts in the stands when you were a kid. Man.
I did.
Yeah.
And man. And then to be able to tell these guys that I idolized them and I watched them, then to the point that now I can, joke with them and talk crap, and they you give it as well as they give it. And people are like, whoa, you're talking to him? I'm like, man, that's so-and-so. It's no big deal.
I'm telling you, there's a 14-year-old Antonio Pierce that went to those Raider games at the Coliseum. And if you'd have told him, hey, you might be the head coach someday, he would have never believed that. Never. And there's so much similarity there in what I'm feeling and seeing, the way you grew up and the way Antonio Pierce grew up.
Yeah, in the shadows of the Coliseum, it's been in my blood since I was a kid. Going to the old Santa Rosa, Napa is where they were training.
Yeah,
old Santa Rosa, El Rancho, Tropic, whatever. My dad would take us up there for training camp and getting to see the players then. my mother's friend dated Otis Sistrunk, and she says dated. He probably just went out with her a couple times, but
that's all right.
We kept her daughter stayed at our house while they were out on the date, and then when they came to pick her up, Otis walks in the house, and I'm 10 years old.
Oh, he's the first bald guy I ever seen in my life. I think there weren't bald people in those days.
He's a giant.
Yeah.
And then my dad asked him, "Hey, you think you can get the kids an autographed ball?" Well, fast forward 30 years, and there I am hanging out with Otis. And he looks like, I showed him a picture. He looks like my grandfather. Well, what he looks like now looks like my grandfather. Yeah. And I told him, I said, "Man, you gave me an autographed football when I was 10 years old." And he says, "What?" He said, "Man, bring that." I said, "I still have the ball." He said, "Bring it back so I can sign it again." And I said, "Nah, I can't do that." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, my brother and I played with it." and smeared all the signatures.
Oh, you got to bring it to him then. Let him try to fix it.
Oh, man, we ruined that ball. It was.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Do I have it?
You know why you don't know you didn't ruin it though? It's like I have friends that were big Dodger fans, and the Dodgers signed a baseball, and him and his buddies went out and played with it. And ruined it for selling purposes, but no, playing with it. You're like going, "This is the same ball with his sister." I mean, at 10, you could. My dad said, "It's not for play. We put it on the shelf." And I don't know if we didn't have a football right then, so we pumped it out. I know where one is. Oh, Mitch, that is so funny. Well, and then eventually your show with Atkinson became the Legends show, right? Is that what was the name of the right? And I remember every Raider game halftime, I was a season ticket holder all the time, and for 10 years, every halftime home game, Mitch was there with George Atkinson, and you guys had different players all. And you had it smooth, and it just ran really great. I just remember that. That's one of my fondest memories of the 2000s.
I met a lot of people through that, and people to this day come up to me and say, "You were that guy that," I'm like, yeah. And then we took it out onto the parking lot for pregame. There was no more halftime, but we did pregame and a much longer show. And Jim Kozimor, one of the local radio guys, he took it over. And then after Jim, Lincoln Kennedy came down, and Lincoln and I got very close. And that is a great guy right there. But
that's a guy we got to get on the show. We need to have a Kennedy Saturday. So
we can get him.
We'll make that happen.
Wait. So
go ahead.
My Lincoln has just retired from the NFL.
Okay,
and he's probably 400 pounds at this point. He's a big man, and he's 6'7", 6'8".
Oh yeah.
And I had him as my guest. And we had talked during the week where to go. Someone at the stadium directed him to the wrong side of the stadium. And it's in September. It was hot. And I'm standing there, and the shadow just comes my way. And I hear, "Mitchell Adams." And I look, and it's Lincoln, and he is pissed. He's got a towel with him.
He was on a couple. So he was
and a couple ladies on either side, and I'm like, "What's up?" I said, I forgot what he said, but he insinuated that I sent him I said, "Lincoln, I never told you the west side. I said the east side." Well, someone here, I said, "Well, that's not my fault, man. Please don't
eat me or kill me.
Don't squish me."
Oh.
Some of these guys were frightening. It's hard to put into words, but they were meek and mild. And then as soon as I put them on stage, it was like someone flipped a light switch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they became that player from yesteryear. And it was different, man. It was different, but so much fun.
But I wanted to talk about that today, and all of this to say, look, the similarities between you and Antonio's Pierce, and it's your heart. You have the same heart because you grew up in it, man. And that's why I'm telling you, he needs to be our guy. He needs to be our guy. That's what we want.
Let's just put it in the universe and say he is our guy.
He is. He's our guy. He's our guy.
He's our guy. He's our head coach.
That's
Interim
right.
tag removed.
There it is.
Done.
We're
done.
removing. It's removed, so it should be announced soon then, okay? Because we removed it. We just
announced it. We just announced it.
We did it. Mitch
Antonio,
Adams.
you're the head coach, baby.
Done. We called it right now. All right, and here's the deal. Show us that ball one more time. This is the Perfect Rotation basketball training device. Get that for your kids. If you go to perfectrotation.com, just tell the professor Mitch Adams sent you there.
And if you put the promo code in Raiders, you get 30% off.
Bam. Just like that. Mitch, thank you so much for opening your heart and sharing your Raider story today, man.
Gnarly, you took me down memory lane, man. Oh, that felt great.
That's so good. I can't wait for that draft and for the season, and let's go. I'm just ready. I'm ready.
Woo!
Go Raiders. Hey, thanks again, Mitch. That was good. Hey, it's Inside the Patch, baby.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.